What the Tech is sponsored by Shutterstock. With over 28 million high-quality photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. For 25% off your new account, go to Shutterstock.com and use offer code WhatTheTech1113.
What the Tech?
Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Adrian Zarian. I'm joined by Paul Thorad as I am each and every week. How you doing, Paul?
Pretty good.
You are very excited today. Call of Duty got released at midnight. I'm sure you've been playing since midnight.
I literally was playing at midnight.
So what was the experience like? Was it the same? Going and buying it at midnight. I know you and your son go every year.
Yep.
At midnight to buy it. Was it any different this year than the previous releases?
So I mix up the years, but one year the Best Buy in Dedham opened, which of course is a huge benefit because it's right up the street. And so that year, whatever that game was, we went and the goons at this store couldn't get out of their own way. And we were in there for almost an hour and a half. And it was the most miserable experience. It was like over an hour of time we could have just been playing the game. They were just so slow. And so they actually don't open the store at Dedham. They're not supposed to do that. Dedham doesn't allow stores to open at midnight. So they haven't done it since. And so we have to go to a Best Buy that's, 15 minutes away by car.
Did they get into trouble for...
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's just the rule in Dedham. So we have this weird... Dedham has these antiquated, like, puritanical laws.
Okay.
So, for example, there are Dunkin' Donuts in Dedham. Actually, I should say, there's only one Dunkin' Donuts in Dedham, I think. This could have changed, but I believe there's only one that can stay open all night. They can't give food to go. You have to eat it there.
That is weird.
I know. It's like after midnight. From midnight until 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, I don't remember. Yeah. They cannot serve food to go. You have to go in the store, eat it, and then you can leave.
But how about like a drive-through?
There's no drive-through.
Oh, no, none. That is
crazy.
Weird.
Yeah, and so I think it's related to that kind of thing. It's like an old-fashioned law or whatever. So
I'm glad that your town is stuck in the 1800s.
Well, no, it's actually in many ways they've done some pretty good modern things as well. I don't know why this is still the way it is, but so we've been going down to Brockton, Mass, which is 15 minutes away or so, and those guys are great. I mean, they've always done a really great job, and I checked online just to be sure, which stores were open, and woke my son up and drove down there. And I mean, we arrived at maybe 2 minutes after 12, and the place had already pretty much cleared out. Like they basically took I guess the guy was telling me that what they did was they let people pay for it, and then they made them wait. And when midnight came, they just handed them to them as they walked out the door, and so they completely slipstreamed the whole thing.
Yeah, that's actually really smart.
Yeah, and so it was like the quickest midnight trip to Best Buy ever. We just went in. We didn't pre-order it, but they gave us the pre-order version, which I guess is happens. And we were out, and I mean we were in the store maybe 7 minutes. I mean, it was great. I
had two awful experiences this week. Both happened on Friday, actually, for me.
Okay.
Friday, the iPad was released.
Yeah.
The iPad Air, which I have it here, which I'll do like a little preview of it. I think this is a cool little device.
I have a potential iPad Air tip.
You do. You have one. Really?
I do. Yeah.
Huh. So I anticipated that there was going to be a crazy line at the Apple Store.
I've heard this has not been the case.
There was nobody at the Apple Store.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there were 5 people in the Apple Store. So I get up in the morning and I start panicking. I don't want to wait in line. I have to be back for an interview at 1 o'clock.
So you have to hang out with those people who were there.
Yeah.
What kind of people would do that? Anyway, sorry.
So I did that pre-order. It's not a pre. It's an in-store pickup.
Yeah, in-store pickup. Yeah. So you buy it and then you pick it up.
Yeah.
That day.
So I bought it. It was like 7 o'clock. I did the in-store pickup. It said it'll be ready within an hour. If your store is not open, it'll be open. It'll be ready when the store opens. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm great. Mint. Perfect.
Do the stores, they don't open early, right? Or do they?
No, 10 o'clock.
They should open. Why don't they open early?
So I drive to the Apple store. I get there. I'm like, where's the line? There's no line. I'm like, uh-oh, maybe the line is inside. Maybe it's a madhouse. I get to the store. There's nobody there. There's a line that they've like created, and there's one guy waiting there.
That's awesome. You should have taken a picture of it.
I know. You know what? I was just really confused that day anyway. So I talk to the guy. I'm like, hey, listen, I'm here to do the in-store pickup. The guy tells me, oh, listen, it's not ready. Okay.
It's not ready?
I'm like, it's not ready. They
what
go,
does
no.
that mean it's not ready?
It's not ready for you to pick up.
They haven't opened the box of millions of iPads that they're going to sell?
But I could just buy one from them.
Okay.
I said, all right, have you guys charged my card already? Because it's like it comes out to like between the stupid case and the tax, it's like $580.
Oh, yeah. That's for the cheapest one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Did you charge my card? They go, yeah, they charged it, but because you're canceling and not returning, it's an instant refund. So if you buy this one from us, just go home and cancel it, and it'll just instantly go and be refunded. You sure about this? Yeah, I'm positive. Okay,
Nice.
fine. So now I have charged $1,200 on my credit card
Sure.
for the iPad. I get home. I call to cancel it. I go to cancel it online. Sorry, you cannot cancel this order. It has already been processed. So I got to call them. They cancel it, and they tell me it's going to take 5 to 10 business days for it to be refunded.
I'm sorry. Yes.
5 to 10 business days for them to refund a product that I have never had in my possession.
Yep.
So I go, no, that's crazy. I'm not accepting that. They go, what do you mean? I go, I'm not accepting that as the answer.
Do not accept
You will refund
Right.
this.
Is that your final decision?
And they go, well, we can't. It's policy. I go, no, it's not policy. You're choosing not to refund it. I never got the item. It's not a return. It's a cancellation of an order that I never got. So I do this for about 45 minutes with the person, and finally the guy goes, okay, listen, the best I could do is Monday. You'll have it in there Monday.
That's crazy.
So they held on to the money for 3 days, and then they finally refunded me the money yesterday. But it was insane. Now it's a good device. I mean, if you have an iPad 2, I don't think it's a major jump. Like
from an iPad 2.
Yeah, like even from I'm gonna take back. I'm a total hypocrite. I've been talking about how the iPad 2 is this old device and it's on the market and it sucks and who knows why are they doing this. The display is stunning. It's really pretty. If you play games on this thing, obviously you're going to see a difference. But if you're just browsing Reddit, you don't need to go buy this thing. You're fine with what you have.
Oh, of course.
But it's cool. Like, it's pretty. The display is stunning.
Well, yeah, it was, when they came out with the iPad Mini last year, the one thing I really liked about it, aside from the size, right, which is incredible, was just the design of it, right? The kind of flat back, the way they did the curve on the on the edges and stuff. I mean, it's a nicer design.
On which one?
On the iPad Mini, and now they've done it on the full size iPad.
I mean,
nice.
it's a beautiful device. You could tell that there's it's a quality device, but
Sure.
I think I was so turned off by the experience at the Apple Store,
Right.
where I was like, I don't even want this thing anymore. Like I'm honestly, I got so turned off to the entire idea of it. I've used it maybe 3 times. So I just spent $550 for something that I will use maybe.
Another satisfied Apple customer.
Awful. I have to tell you, the customer service was awful.
So since we're on this topic, I should tell you my tip.
Okay, what is your tip?
I just found this out. You can bring in any iPad to Target in a store that does. It has to be a Target that has like a wireless center. Mm-hmm. So you can look that up online. I guess a lot of them do. And they'll give through the 8th or 9th. So just for the next couple of days, they'll give you $200 for any iPad. So if you have like a first gen iPad, which is normally worth about $65, you can bring it in, get $200, and then you buy a new iPad, and now it's only $300 or whatever.
I think that's a phenomenal deal.
So I wasn't going to buy one of these iPads until next year when Office started happening, and I needed to test that. But I might actually just do that because I've got a first gen sitting around, and we'll never use it.
Yeah.
And that might be a good. It's never going to be worth that much anywhere else.
No, I think that's a great deal for it, actually.
Yeah.
If you have a first gen, just go
Target,
do it.
Check it out. Anyway.
I'm curious how many people are using the first gens. I don't think a lot of people are still using that thing.
You know what? Okay, so it's funny you say that. So, I've often thought with Apple products in general that the way that this goes is a lot of people, and I mean some significant percentage, they buy a device, whatever it is, iPad, iPod, something, whatever. And then the next one comes out and they buy it immediately. And then what they do is they either hand down or maybe even sell the other one, and it kind of goes down the chain like that. And even in my own family, we don't really use a lot of Apple products, but my kids, my son needs an iPad for school now, and my daughter uses an iPad too. And both of the devices they have were iPads I had bought 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or whatever. And so they get handed down, and I think it's very common. But we went and saw a comedy show the other night, and I noticed that two of the guys on stage, who, by the way, you have to think are fairly well off, because they're kind of famous in their field.
Who'd you see?
We saw Cinematic Titanic, which is some of the guys that used to do Mystery Science Theater.
Yeah.
Two of them were holding iPads at one point or another while on stage. They were not the same iPad because at one point they were both on stage together with them. And I could tell it was the first gen version because the first gen had that really weird cover that you kind of slid over it, and then it, also provided the cover. So it was kind of like that weird sheath kind of thing that they don't make anymore. It was before they had the smart cover.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like how ugly that cover was, but you kind of needed to cover the thing because it was so expensive. And they both had that, and I was thinking that is so strange. Like these guys must. I wonder why would they do this? And I think the one thing I would say about the original iPad compared to every one that's come since is that comparatively speaking, that device was so solid and thick and kind of it's almost rugged, compared to the new ones. Like if you look at an iPad Air or an iPad 2, right? You don't want to. You're afraid to even touch it because it looks so, it looks like a glass art object or something. Whereas the first gen one, you throw it in that ugly cover and it's like, whatever, who cares? And plus, if you dropped it, if you travel with it, you go on this tour like they are. If that thing broke, it'd be like, well, whatever. It's first gen iPad. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a place for them, but I would imagine it's a very small percentage of people that bought that thing are still using it, like everyday use, like people that actually use it. Because I remember when the iPad 2 came out, people ran out to buy that thing, and it was a year later.
Well, right, and so oddly enough, just this morning as well, I walking through the kitchen, my daughter had left her iPad 2 on the counter, and I looked at it, and I actually picked it up and kind of weighed it in my hand. I've been looking at a lot of tablets lately, as you might expect, for review purposes and so forth, and I was kind of considering this device, and I have to say, it's still a very attractive device, and compared to the first iPad, I mean, just a wonderful difference in thickness and in weight, and probably in processing power. I don't really remember anymore, but it's still. I don't know. I honestly, the people who are Apple customers today aren't the people who were Apple customers 10 years ago. It's not like the tech elite anymore, although they're still in there. The majority of Apple's customers are just normal people now.
Yeah, because of the success of the iPhone and the iPod Touch and the iPad.
So you could get on a plane and you could see like a grandmother reading on an original iPad or something. I don't mean to keep disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me if like there was in fact some collection of norms out there who were using either hand-me-down or maybe originally bought iPads, in the sense that just like sometimes you have a person who buys a brand new car in 1979, and then they get old and they're still driving the same car. So they bought it new once, but then they kind of keep it. And like those people are kind of still out there. I mean, obviously there's a forced obsolescence with technology, but
sure,
reading books and stuff. I could, browse the web, like you were saying on the iPad 2, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually, it's a very impressive device, and you know what? All the credit to them. They've really created this. It's elegant. It feels great in your hand. The display is stunning. If you're going for, and I'll tell you, that's where you really notice it. Not as much with performance, because I don't do too much stuff on this that's going to require.
Sure.
I'm not rendering images.
Right. You're not doing 3D rendering.
But the first thing that you notice, like if I was using this thing and then I went to my wife's iPad to do something on it, and I was like, oh my God, this looks like crap. Like it really looks bad when you take the two and you compare them. But the display is stunning. Performance is good. I'm actually surprised that I'm not noticing a huge performance boost. Because if you think about it, it's 2 generations behind, the iPad 2. Or 3 generations behind.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
I should technically be able to tell, like, oh, wow, this is so much faster than the other one. But I don't.
Part of it might just be the pixels, right? It's not driving as many. I guess. It's got to have like a quarter as many pixels or something. Like
the other one, yeah. But really, I like it a lot.
Yeah, I can see that.
I had a discussion with someone about this. Actually, you know what? Should I go into this now or save it later? You know what? I'm going to save it for later.
Okay.
Because it's gonna get convoluted, and we're gonna totally lose track of the show when I go into that. But okay. What we should do before we continue, because I want to ask you about your Chromebook review.
Well, I haven't really written a review yet.
Well, the blog post that you made.
Yeah.
Because I actually went on a radio show to defend you on Sunday.
To defend me?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I write something controversial?
Well, you said that it's a joke in the headline.
ChromeOS is a joke. Yeah.
ChromeOS is a joke.
Yeah.
And these people were very upset.
Yeah. So I've
upset.
I've had this recurring experience. It's sort of like Groundhog Day, right? Except the tech reviewer version, which is where I will say or write something that to me is just common sense. And then there's some kind of weird subculture of humanity, this weird little group of tech goons who like love Nintendo, or they love Linux, or they love the Mac, or they love, in this case, Chrome OS. And unbelievably, those people are out there. And they will not harbor anything that appears to be criticism, no matter how valid it is.
Yeah.
Like they are not interested in that. And Chrome OS is a weird one if you think about it, because this is a kind of device that virtually nobody uses, statistically speaking. It's extremely limited. I mean, I don't know how you could claim otherwise. They obviously are making, they being Google, are making big gains with offline usage and all this stuff. But, frankly, a lot of the stuff you have to be online. The devices tend to ship with almost no memory, although that's hit or miss depending on which one you get. Until this year, most of the device, and excluding the Pixel, which is extremely expensive, very low-end processors, kind of netbook class machines and so forth. It's not a mainstream computing solution. It's not something that most people could use instead of a computer. It's also not something that most people could use instead of a tablet, like that iPad you just got. In fact, virtually any tablet is way more full-featured than this. For any range of things that you want to do, whether it's browsing the web, email, Facebook, watching a video, listening to music, listening to an audiobook, whatever it is. All these kind of things that we used to do only with laptops, and now do with some range of device types. Chrome OS is almost always the worst possible choice of all of them, by far. I also think you could make the argument that for $299, you could go to Best Buy and pick up a Dell laptop that runs Windows 8. You could install Chrome and get literally every single feature that's available in Chrome OS for free, and have all of the offline stuff that you can do with Windows, play videos, whatever. I really just don't see the value proposition of it. Now, the problem is when you attack something that somebody that's some people like, not only do they take it personally, but they now have to, out of context, declare that you have no idea what you're talking about. I've been talking about and writing about things like technology that is good enough for years and years. I have always been fascinated by low-end computing devices and software.
Because that's what the mainstream is going to be attracted to also.
Yes, right. But I always have been. I mean, I could buy a very high-end MacBook Pro if I wanted to. I could buy an Xbox One. I can do this and this. But I've always been fascinated by low-end stuff. When I was working at a community college in Arizona in the mid-1990s, and I saw Linux for the first time, I remember thinking, what's Microsoft going to do when confronted by a version, like a free version of Office that does like 10% of what Microsoft Office does, but is completely free, and it does that 10% that everybody wants. I thought they're screwed,
And the reality is they have been. That has happened.
They have blown away everything that has come in to confront Office.
But why is that? I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's a little off from the Chromebook stuff, but it's interesting on why that's the case because, but like someone like me, I use Google Drive all the time, unless it's a very important document. Then I use Word. Do I use Word because it's better than Drive? I'm sure. In many ways it is, or am I using it because I feel that okay, this is important, so I have to use Word with it?
My opinion on that one's going to be skewed because I'm a professional writer, and so I use Word. Word is the best tool. There's no argument to be made otherwise. It just is the best tool. I've used every word processor imaginable, from the WordPerfect, Smart Suite, Lotus, blah blah blah, to the Open Offices and all of those versions and the online stuff. I've used it all. I've done it all. Word is it. I'm sorry. Sorry. Now, for a normal person, yes, you could get by with something else. I get it, but I can't really explain that one. But I look at Chromebook and ChromeOS through a lens that's not Windows focused. I have experience with a lot of different device types. I don't see a single instance where this thing makes more sense than something else ever. Like, I don't see a single one.
Okay, so I'll run down some pricing.
There are tablets that cost just as much as these things that would be way more viable devices.
I think people. So the argument that I was having, it wasn't an argument. It was actually more of a debate. But they started off taking shots at you, and I didn't like it, and I went on, and I kind of, they were.
Well, they have to, right? It has to get personal.
What it was?
For these
it was
guys,
more of
it is personal, right?
Yeah,
it is personal.
It became into this. Well,
I don't understand this.
It became this weird, like, they didn't say it, but I really felt, and maybe I'm wrong, but I felt it was going in the sense of, well, is he paid off from Microsoft not to like this thing?
Love it.
And
that's great. Well, by the way, so no, I mean, so I bought this device with my own money, for one thing. I want to be really clear about this. I take the threat of ChromeOS, and by threat I mean to Windows, right? Because I do write about Windows primarily, very seriously. I think it's important enough to write about. I think that should be noted. When you read an Apple website writing a review of a Surface device or a Windows 8 or something, heads up. Yeah, they're probably going to trash it, but they take it seriously. And I think that's important. I think that's an important aspect of things that people get lost in. The other thing is, I have not actually written a review of this device. The device itself, I think, is beautiful. The one that I got, which is the HP Chromebook 11, because they've got two models, is the one that looks like the old white MacBooks. Remember those? Yeah,
they're beautiful.
It is a beautiful device. It has a nice screen. It's got a very pretty kind of display that comes up when you boot into the kind of fake desktop they have. But the problem is, from a simplicity perspective, from a cost perspective, I have a range of tablets that I can compare it to and very quickly say, look, no offense, but this is better, this is better, there's too much that's better. Once you get to a functional productivity standpoint, now you're comparing it to Windows. And even the cheapest Windows laptop on earth would be a better experience than this thing.
So, but here's my argument with this. And this is kind of what I came to this theory when it comes to ease of use when it comes to computers.
Yeah.
The reason why the iPad is so successful is not because it is a PC replacement. It is because it is simple enough for anybody to learn. Why? Because all you're doing is this. You're poking with your finger, you're touching the screen, you're clicking on things.
Well, okay, but I by the way, you're right, but I think you need to add one thing to that, which is that the iPad betrayed something, which a lot of us didn't understand before the iPad, which was that the computer was a fairly complex thing to use to get certain things done.
Yeah, and that's where I'm getting to. It's complicated for someone, and I have this weird idea that it's complicated because it works with a keyboard and a trackpad. Well, that's why it's complicated, because now you're able to do a lot more than just touching the screen. I think that's the disconnect for a lot of people. Yeah, when you do word processing, you can connect the keyboard, but I think that's the disconnect for your grandparents that are getting this. The argument was, well, this is great for grandma, grandpa, and someone that doesn't know computers. Well, no, it's the same thing as Windows at this point.
I really don't feel that this thing is a good solution for almost anybody. But whatever.
But do you think the disconnect is the keyboard and the fact that you got to sit there and
I think you hovered around a very central issue with the Chromebook, which is that when you open up a laptop, you think you're using a laptop. When it boots into a screen that looks like Windows 7, you think you're using Windows 7. And when you start launching apps and they only launch as tabs in the one browser window that is available, when you can't pin any website you want to that taskbar, you can only pin certain kinds of websites, you very quickly begin realizing that this thing isn't just constrained. It is, useless is a strong word. It is frustratingly limited. It's something that looks like something functional and isn't. And it betrays how unfunctional it is every time you try to do anything with it. So it's attractive. And I like Chrome, the browser. I actually use Chrome every day. I mean, I like it. I understand how it works. I know that from within the Chrome web browser, I can pin any website to my Windows taskbar. That works great. Can't do that in ChromeOS. That's dumb. And yes, I know they're going to improve it over time. I know that they've added offline capabilities to certain web apps and not to others, and that will improve over time. I get that. Haswell versions of it, very interesting because those will be very powerful and potentially have really good battery life. They're inexpensive enough that if my daughter wrecked one, it wouldn't be too horrible and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, I think that everything that you do on this device is like a path to frustration. You talk about giving... No, I mean that because when you talk about grandmothers, I think about my wife's parents, and they're on my wife's cell phone plan, and they pay her every month for their cell phone use. These are people who like to get online, do stuff online. My mother-in-law is on Facebook all the time. My wife actually had to chide her father recently because his data usage, 4G whatever data usage for the month, was like 12 megabytes. Like, this is a guy who turns off the data because he's afraid of using too much. He always wants to get on Wi-Fi. I don't... he couldn't use this device. It would drive him insane to have to be online all the time to use this device. Like, I think this is they prefer Windows PCs for whatever reason. I have nothing to do with that. That's what they want to use. They're comfortable with them. I think when you move from Windows down to this, you would be very frustrated. And by the way, there are Windows PCs this cheap. There's no reason to limit yourself in this fashion.
And I think the pricing of $280, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think that price is going to stick around for a long time. We're talking about these devices are going to get Haswell by the end of the year. Probably by the second quarter, they're going to get Haswell.
They're going to those are coming any day now. Like those
any day.
They're happening. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the pricing? What's the price going to be on a Haswell based?
$500 ish, I would imagine.
Why? Why would anybody buy that?
I don't know.
I mean, the only attractive thing about this device to me is the pricing. $280, $300. You can get yourself.
To which I would say, then buy a Kindle Fire HD, then buy a Google Nexus 7. Yeah. I'm sorry, like those kinds of prices, like there are better devices.
It was a fascinating discussion. Listen. I think it's great that they're working on something. I don't think it's currently in its current positioning. It is nothing.
You can't compliment something because it's going to get better supposedly later.
Yeah,
I mean, look at what it is now. The reason I got this device is the only Chrome device I had before this was the original CR42 one that Google gave out.
Yeah,
and I wanted to see how this thing had come along. I originally wanted to get one of the Haswell devices, but then I saw this HP one. I thought, this is cool looking and whatever. And I have to say, they've added the desktop type experience over time, which I already saw. The way this thing ships out of the box, the device itself is very attractive. It's that white kind of plastic, look, which is nice, very pretty. Combined with the kind of color scheme, it's like an Android type screen, on the desktop there. It's very attractive, and then it's kind of downhill from there.
I think it's the same problem, I guess, the same exact problem actually as Windows RT, in my opinion.
Well, except for one thing.
What is that?
You can use Windows RT offline.
You could use Windows RT offline.
I could on a 32 gigabyte Surface 2 rent 3 or 4 movies, put a bunch of music on there, listen to audiobooks, and I could do all that stuff offline.
Yeah.
Can't do that with a Chromebook. And yes, Surface 2 is $500. This thing is $300. I get it. There's a difference. But
I'm talking about it as a consumer. The consumer is going to encounter the same problem because what they're expecting when they're sitting in front of a laptop is totally different than what they're expecting with a tablet. I think they have they're disappointed to a point because they think they're going to be able to do something and they're not.
The fact that they engineered this thing to look like Windows 7 is completely understandable because that's kind of the computing standard that people are familiar with. But it's also kind of disingenuous because people look at it and they think, oh, this is it's like Windows. And it's like, it's really not like Windows. It's not.
I'm actually ordering one next week because of the discussion I had, and there were a group of them that were really for this device, and apparently you started this huge debate in the I think there's a Chromebook Google community group, and it was all about Paul Thurrott saying that this thing is a joke, and I read the article because I thought you were going to bash it, and you weren't. No. As negative as they made it seem. They made it seem like you said.
No, it drives them crazy. That's what I mean. They won't listen. It's not a debate. It's not a discussion. No, you're wrong. You've criticized it. You're wrong.
I mean, it's the same exact thing as these netbooks. Where are all these netbooks now? 3 years later, they're sitting in a corner somewhere and it hasn't been turned on in about 2 years. I honestly feel that it's the same exact thing at this point.
Sure.
I don't know. I got a little upset with the conversation. I didn't want to start a huge thing because it was on a radio show, and now I'm going to start screaming that they have no idea what they're talking about.
It's just unreasonable. I mean, look, it's such a different discussion. Like, a lot of people were upset about stuff I'd said about the iPad 3.5 years ago. But if they had been paying attention, what they would have seen is that I've spent a lot of time writing about and thinking about the iPad, and have been very honest and I think logical about it. And my opinion has certainly changed over time. So what's the debate there now? Like iPad versus some other kind of Surface. It's a more reasonable discussion. Even a Mac, once you get past the fact that most Macs are very expensive, you have this kind of Mac versus PC discussion. I happen to think that Windows PCs are a better solution for most people, but there's nothing wrong with a Mac. I mean, it's fine. It's like really obviously a highly functioning device. It's great. And they're certainly beautiful to look at and all that kind of stuff. When you get to ChromeOS, it's like I get it. Like I sort of get why someone would like this kind of thing, but this company also makes Android, and like Android runs Chrome. Why wouldn't it just be that? I mean, I would rather have that thing be an Android device with a keyboard that ran Chrome. The Chrome experience would be the same, and then you'd have the advantage of running, Android apps. I think that would be huge.
Listen, so this thing could be a viable threat in maybe 5 years. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, it's possible.
Yeah, to me, it's and I think I wrote that. I think what I wrote in the review was that, or not the review, the one thing I wrote about it so far. It was sort of a competitive. It was like a competitive analysis kind of thing. Was that if anything, I mean, because of the relationship that Microsoft has with PC makers, a lot of them are looking for lower cost options, and ChromeOS is one of them, right? So it's kind of a matter of good timing on the part of Google that these people are now coming to them. And that kind of momentum has a way of churning things from the other side. And so Chrome may now improve more quickly because now all of a sudden a lot of companies are interested in selling these devices. So, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. But it was a fascinating discussion, and I wanted to bring it up to you. Hey, we have a lot to talk about, but let me take this moment and talk about our sponsor, and that's Shutterstock. Over 28 million high-quality photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips. Now, they're offering a phenomenal deal for our audience. 25% off on a new account by using offer code WhatTheTech1113. That's WhatTheTech1113. That's 1113. Now, what is Shutterstock? If you are in the business of making websites, if you're in the ad business, if you do video clips, publication, this is a service to definitely check out. The reason why I say it is because they have a huge selection of stock photos. And for anybody that has created a website or a portfolio for somebody or a presentation at work, it's quite difficult to go online, go on Google, and start searching for the image. You may find the perfect image, but you don't know the size. You don't know how good the quality is going to be. And it may not be fair use. You may not have the rights to use that image. But with Shutterstock, you do, because part of their service. And if they don't have what you're looking for, guess what? They're adding 20,000 images every day. And they have a pretty high standard for people that are signing up. If you sign up for a monthly subscription, you can download 25 images per day. That's with a standard subscription, and you can get it in any size. So it doesn't matter how many times you download. You can download the same image 16 times in 16 different formats, and it counts as one download. That's Shutterstock.com. Offer code is WhatTheTech1113, and you get 25% off on a new account. I want to thank Shutterstock for supporting What the Tech. Good people there. I actually one of my relatives is doing something for work, and I told her to sign up for it, and she did. So that's another one for us, Paul. Cha-ching.
Yeah.
Another account for us.
That's another iPad we can afford to buy.
That's another iPad we could afford to buy just by her purchase. I'm a little upset, Paul, and I'll tell you why. I've been talking about this Nexus 5 for months to you. I've been holding out on getting a new phone.
Wait.
Yeah.
Hold on. I just got to tell you something.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I know what you're going to say.
I know.
I mean, this happens every time.
I know.
And at some point, you just have to agree that it's time to start a T-Mobile account or something.
I know. And this has happened to me since I've gotten a phone. I mean, I could go back to the Trio days where this would happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's driving me crazy. I don't even know why I'm at Verizon anymore. I lost my mind today on Friday Thursday when they announced that they're not getting it. I wasn't surprised. I kind of anticipated this happening. Verizon did put out I guess not a press release, but like a blog post saying that they will be working with Google in the future on a new device.
Yeah, right.
So I immediately, I went on this rant about the reason why they're doing this is because of the unsubsidized price point. When you have the Verizon website and they're listing all these phones where you can, because they list the full price now. Before they didn't do that. Now it says, with contract $199, off contract $549.
This is like forcing McDonald's to put calorie information next to their food. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see the calories.
Okay, here we've been sort of lying about this for a while. Here's what it really is.
So they're charging you, $600 for a phone off contract, which I'm not a surprise. But now you have this Nexus 5 that's $349, and it's better than anything they have on that list. And it's no contract. That's why they don't want it.
Right.
I don't think any of these companies want it. You know what Best Buy is doing? If you go to Best Buy to buy this phone, they're charging you $800 out of pocket to buy it.
What?
Yeah. Best Buy is selling this for like $780. And that's the exact reason why Verizon doesn't want it.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because now I have Verizon. Obviously, I have a family plan. Everybody has Verizon. I don't know what to buy. There's nothing that's attractive. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, I'm probably going to buy the new Windows phone when it comes out for Verizon.
Yeah, that looks like it's going to be pretty good, by the way.
It looks great.
Yeah.
But it breaks my entire cycle of having every phone. This
is dumb because if this thing, I feel like they could have made this work, right? But maybe Verizon was going to block it or something. They could have had a Verizon or a universal antenna, LTE antenna.
By the way, they do. They do have that.
Oh, so this is why it won't. So, okay.
It's the same problem that the Nexus 7 has. The Nexus 7 can work on Verizon's network. Verizon is choosing not to let it work.
Yeah. So that's quite a cell phone carrier you got going there. Yeah, okay.
And the reason why they didn't want the Nexus 7 is because now they have their own brand. They have a Verizon branded 7-inch tablet that they're selling.
Jeez.
It is mind-boggling how this company is working. And I mean, I was so annoyed.
Get a GoPhone account or something. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm just going to get a T-Mobile account.
You think you just get the lowest plan, whatever it is?
Because they have like awesome international plans now. They just let you take it international. That's the plan. What a hilarious plan that is. It just seems like such a great idea.
The problem here is that T-Mobile doesn't work. Sprint doesn't work. Where I am.
Just actually using, yeah.
There's nothing.
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive. One of my friends has a Sprint phone. He came over, and another one of my friends has a T-Mobile phone, and it literally says no service, and you can't get service for like 5 miles. I'm in the depths of hell when it comes to cell phone providers.
Yeah. So by the way, that's a very real problem.
Yeah, and Verizon barely works. AT&T works too. I should say that, so I could pick up and go to AT&T, but it's a hassle because I have 5 people on my family plan. Now I got to bring everybody over. Yep. I need to get new phones for everybody. It's a whole thing, and it's just frustrating. It's so frustrating that this phone can work, and Verizon is choosing not to put it on. So what do I buy now, Paul? I'm looking on there. I don't see anything that's attractive. The LG G2, which is very similar, it's nearly identical to this thing, is the only phone that's semi-attractive to me right now. The S4, I would get the Samsung, but you can't unlock the bootloader. You're kind of stuck with what they have, So
you can't buy I know they sell like Play Edition versions of S4 and the HTC One.
Not for Verizon.
Not for Verizon. Okay.
Yeah. Only GSM.
Right.
Someone said the LG G2 is so full of crud. That's what Darren said in a room. So there goes my...
That's why I love these Play devices, the Nexus devices. Because they're just clean.
I mean, but Paul, why don't they... Here's a crazy idea. They make this, whoever makes the phone, they put it with all the antennas, so it works on everything, and you could just... Why wouldn't Verizon have this thing? If I want to go buy this thing out of pocket, I don't care if it was $600, because you know what? I probably would have gone and bought it for $600 because I want that phone. Why can't I just go to Verizon and put it on there?
Because Verizon hates you.
Yeah.
I
think it's a personal thing. It's all about me.
Well, no, I don't think they just hate you. I think they hate lots of people.
No, I think they just hate me. I think that's the entire thing behind that company.
I was a Verizon customer, and my wife is still, but at the time, and this would have been like 2005, 2006, whatever, I had like a Moto, God, I can't even think of the name of it anymore. A Moto, blah, 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 some Motorola Q, a Moto Q. And I had like an Edge connection. No, geez, what am I talking about? No, it had, what was the name of that connection? It was like pre 3G, some kind of fast.
It was like 2.5G.
Yeah, what the hell was it called?
I can't remember it either.
It was so great, And then the iPhone came out, and I had to switch, and I was really despondent, like having to go to AT&T because you hear all these AT&T horror stories. And sure enough, you use the iPhone on AT&T, and it's awful. And the first year or so, I was like, oh man, AT&T, they suck. They're so awful. Then I got Windows Phone, and then it suddenly occurred to me that the problem was not AT&T. The problem was the iPhone. And all of a sudden, all the stuff that never worked fine on Windows Phone. And when I would call my wife on a business trip, she wouldn't hear the background noise. She would hear me.
Yeah.
When I called my wife in New York City, the call wouldn't cut out because I was walking around. The call would just never cut out. It would just work fine. And you have all these problems on the iPhone, or at least you did back in the day. The first couple of versions that didn't exist. So, and aside from that, I mean, AT&T has improved dramatically over the years. And so it's funny to me, like people still complain about AT&T, and certainly as a Windows Phone user, there's some cause to complain about letting updates through and all that kind of stuff. But as far as like the actual service goes,
no, it's really good. I mean, here in New York City, they used to be awful, and I started getting these AT&T review phones. They were sending it to me until they got upset with me, and they banned me. I'm no longer allowed. They don't even respond to my emails because I said the HTC One is not a great phone, and that was it. I mean, that's all I had to do.
Sure.
Everybody's against me, Paul. Everybody. I'm gonna disappear. I'm gonna start doing a show. I'm gonna start doing a ham radio show in 3 a.m. and screaming about how they're out to get me. I'm about to turn into Art Bell.
Yeah.
I was actually very impressed with the AT&T connection. They've really upped the ante here, but once you're committed to a service, it's hard to break it when you have 4 or 5 people on your plan. That's where the problem is. So they know they have you.
Right.
I'm curious how many people, and I'll ask the chat room this because we have a couple hundred people in there, about 200 people. How often do you jump from provider to provider? I don't think it's that often.
Oh, don't you sort of look at that with a sense of dread? It's like when I've been complaining about Verizon Fios. Like, even assuming there was some service that was like a viable alternative to Fios, like the very thought of switching, of all the stuff you'd have to go through, is
awesome.
so horrific to contemplate. I would hate doing that, but yeah, and I did it with like I said, with the iPhone, I did do it. And I think back then, I got a new number. I think I just canceled my Verizon. I switched numbers because, back then they weren't forced to take your phone number. They could, now you can take it with you if you want to.
To kind of keep myself a little happy, I rooted my phone, my Galaxy Nexus, which Google came out and said they are not supporting anymore, and they're not updating anymore because the chipset is no longer supported. I think it's a Texas Instrument chipset that they're not supporting. But a guy has made a ROM for this, version 4.4. It's still very beta, but I put it on to test it out, and I have to tell you, there is some pretty cool stuff on this thing.
What did you put this on?
My Galaxy Nexus.
Your Galaxy Nexus?
Yeah. So It's 2 years old.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. Google Now is really good. OK Google works. Let me see if I could do something here. OK Google. Who is Paul Thurrott?
Paul Thurrott is dead to me.
According to Wikipedia, Paul Brian Thurrott is a technology blogger, published author, podcaster, and news editor for Paul Thurrott's super site for Windows and Windows IT Pro magazine.
That's pretty cool. That's actually impressive how well it works. Another thing that it does,
Google.
Another thing that it does is that they've incorporated Google Caller ID now. So if somebody calls you, a business calls you, it'll actually show who it is. It'll say the business name along with an image, a high-res image. I think that's really cool too. There's other improvements here, obviously, but because I'm on a very beta version of this, because the guy hasn't, I guess, made the ROM to work to the level it should, it has some issues. But I do like the fact that Hangouts is now incorporated with SMS, so it's all one. But other than that, everything else is still the same. I like it. It's a decent OS. It's better than 4.3.
I no longer even, I don't even know what I'm using. On the Nexus 4 and the Nexus 7, I use the Nexus 7 every day. I almost never use the Nexus 4, but I think Android's fine. It's certainly evolved into something that is much better than it used to be. But that said, I'm just looking to see what the version is. I have no idea. No, this one's 4.3. So what's on it? Well, that must be what's on the Nexus 7, right? 4.3?
Yeah, 4.3.
Yeah.
They're rolling 4.4 out slowly, but I'm just a little disappointed that this thing, Verizon is not getting the phone, and you really don't have too many options on when it comes to buying a phone on Verizon. It's the iPhone or it's a Galaxy S4. Really, yeah. That's really what it comes down to.
Right.
And if you go to their website and you're buying a phone, the first phone you see is an Android phone. The iPhone is kind of buried.
Right.
Which is interesting. And a Windows phone is like the last thing you see there. The X8. The 8X is the last thing you see on that thing. Bizarre. I don't know. Very disappointed. So upset. Paul, I wanted to ask you, I got a lot of emails about the Dell tablet that you wrote about.
Yep.
What do you think of it?
I like it. I think ultimately what's going to hurt it is just the whole ecosystem thing, right? When you think about a little tablet like this compared to a Nexus 7 or an Amazon tablet or an iPad mini, once you get a Windows tablet down to the right form factor, it's, thin and light, it gets great battery life and all that kind of stuff. You have to kind of turn your mind toward the most important part of the equation, which is, what am I going to do with this thing? And I think a lot of people are going to be attracted to it because it's Windows, and certainly I'm in that group. Like I like that it's, the Windows 8 thing, and I certainly am I partake in that whole ecosystem. But it's going to be a tough one because, like Windows Phone, you are going to run into people who are going to say, "Yeah, but does it have this?" No, not really. And it's weird because it's Windows 8, not RT, so it does run desktop apps. But the Windows desktop on an 8-inch screen, all of the little controls are like these little single pixel deals.
Not that great.
Yeah, and so it's better than nothing. I would say, for example, maybe you're someone who has like a lot of iTunes content, and you're on Windows. You're like, well, I want to get a tablet, but I'm leaning to an iPad because obviously that stuff works there. Well, here's a Windows tablet. It comes with Office. I mean, running Office on this kind of a screen is ridiculous, but there it is. And you can run iTunes on it if you want. It works. I mean, it's not going to be a great experience with your finger because iTunes is never going to be optimized for touch, and is never going to come out on Windows Art. For the Metro environment. So overall, I mean, it's great. I mean, I've written a couple of articles about it. I'll finally review it, but I think the bottom line is going to be that the hardware is there. These OS is absolutely there, but it's still, it's like a year into this, and we still don't have that same breadth of content, depth of content, maybe is a better word, that you see on Android or iOS, and that's going to hurt. It's just going to hurt it.
What's preventing the developers from developing for it? The lack of, I guess,
it's chicken
user
egg,
base,
right?
or yeah.
I mean, you see some stuff. Depending on what you use, it's there, and it's weird because I have this. It's funny on my desktop right now. I can see them. 10 or 12 articles that I've kind of started and never published, and never because they're not finished. One of them is like it sort of starts off as a letter to Amazon where it says, I want to love you, but you don't do the right thing on every platform. And so one of the strengths of the Amazon stuff, if you use Kindle or the music stuff that they do, or their cloud service or whatever, is that they have apps and mobile versions and web versions and stuff of all of that stuff on most platforms. But even when something is on every platform, and Kindle is a great example, it's not the same on each platform. And so, for example, I recently bought a book that's sort of an ebook that's a coffee table book in real life, but the ebook version is kind of like this multimedia enhanced version of the book. And throughout their book, there are videos, and there are also audio recordings, and you can read and look at the pictures, and then you get to a video and you can tap on it, and the video plays. Depending on the device you have, that won't work at all. In fact, the only place it actually works 100% is on a Kindle device, like on a Kindle tablet. But on the Nexus 7 with the Kindle app, you can read the book, you can look at the pictures. It says that there's video there, but the video doesn't work and the audio doesn't work. If you tried to load that book into Kindle on Windows 8, the mobile app, the Metro app, it won't even load the book. You can't even read the book.
Not good.
Yeah. So on the Dell device, you can of course run the desktop version of the Kindle software. Interestingly, that book does load in that version. You still don't get audio and video, but the problem is now you're using a touch device with a non-touch app, and it just doesn't work very well.
I guess that's why it comes with a stylus.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother world of hurt. Like I know there are a lot of people really excited about the stylus. I eventually kind of gave it and ordered one, and I'm going to get it, and I'll write about it. But I'm never going to use it personally. I don't care about it. I know it's going to be a bad experience, and yes, the stylus would be one way you could maybe more accurately, tap those miniature UI controls on the desktop side. But my God, like seriously. You're going to sit there with like it's like playing that game like Operation where you don't want to, hit the edges of the
But is there that big of a difference between the 8-inch and the 10-inch display? I mean, does the experience change that drastically between, the Surface Pro and this?
Yeah, I would say so because, one of the things you can do with Windows now is you can scale the display. And when you're on a 10-inch display, like a Surface Pro or Surface 2 or whatever, you can scale that thing like 150%. And it looks a little big, but it works. You can still use it. The problem with this one is like, an 8-inch display, you scale it up to that much, and Windows looks like it's running at 320 by 240. Like it's ridiculous looking. And then you've just made it into something that's kind of unusable. And so applications like, I haven't tried this. I'm assuming this is how it would look, but an application like iTunes you wouldn't even be able to fit the whole thing.
Yeah.
In the
and
display.
it's $300.
Yeah, it's $300. I think it's a good price for what it is.
It's a very good price.
It's a nice device. In fact, the one thing I have to say, like I just mentioned this, I use the Nexus 7 every day. Honestly, this thing is the size of this. It doesn't seem like it'd be that much bigger, right? 7 to 8 inches.
Yeah.
I actually prefer the 8-inch display. It's a fairly low res display, like a Nexus 7, I think, has a 1080p display, or maybe even a 1920 by 1200 display. I don't remember, but very high resolution. This one's only 1280 by 800, but honestly, it looks fantastic. And I do a lot of streaming movie tests for battery life stuff, and I was streaming that movie, The Avengers, and as I was working, so it's kind of playing over in the corner, and I would look down at it, and it's like, man, this screen is beautiful. It's so detailed. It looks like it's super high res, even though it isn't.
With all these RT tablets, in that price point on the market,
Yeah,
like the Acer, for example, why would I buy that if I could buy this? Like it's competing.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
competing with the Windows in a weird way. It's not competing with like the Surface. It's competing with the RT devices, the lower end RT devices.
Well, so there are no 8-inch RT devices, right? There are no, the only mini tablets that exist now or soon will are all Windows 8 devices. They're not RT.
They're not RT.
No, not yet. That will happen next year. But I think the advantage of Windows 8 in general on any tablet is that it gives you that backwards compatibility thing. If there's that one app you need to get you over the hump, at least it's available there. And that could be iTunes. It could be, I don't know, like, for example, I don't actually know this for a fact, but let's say that Spotify, for example, has an application for Windows, but they don't have one for Metro. Well, you can get your Spotify app on there. Or maybe it doesn't, I don't have to go through a list of apps. You get the idea.
Yeah.
If you use Windows, Windows RT, the Metro environment, or whatever we're calling it this week, does not have a good photo acquisition solution. Windows Desktop has something called Windows Photo Gallery. It's free. It will work okay on this, and now you have all those capabilities that you couldn't have on an RT device. There's a bunch of little things that I think are, that still make Windows 8.1 or Windows 8 or whatever, the x86 platform, more interesting to more people, just from sort of a compatibility standpoint.
It looks pretty cool. I mean, it's
a nice device.
Yeah, it's a nice little device.
Yep.
It's surprising that Dell is the one that's putting it out.
Well, by the way, this has renewed my interest in Dell, and so they have a 10-inch version of this coming out soon. Obviously, they've got lines of laptops and all that kind of stuff too. So I looked at this thing and I thought, wow, I haven't looked at a Dell in a while. This is nice.
What were those Dell Pocket PCs? The Axias?
Yeah, the
oh God, what were the names?
I want to say it's like Axiom.
Axiom, yeah, that's what it was. Axiom, yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, I had a couple of those, and I had at the time, it was like the best one you could get. It was like unheard of, like it was probably like 64 megabytes or something, and it had like a graphics processor in it, which was crazy for a Pocket PC, like dedicated GPU, probably with 2 megabytes of RAM or something.
I'm on Dell's website now. I'm building out a computer to see what their high-end computer is.
Axim is what it was called.
All right, let's see here.
And the one I would have had was probably, X51.
I'll tell you, they're not cheap, Dell laptops.
Sure.
I mean, when you get into higher end ones, it's expensive. It's a cool little product. I personally, I don't know what I would use it for, but I'm sure there are a lot of people out there looking for an 8-inch or 7-inch tablet that, for $299, they're running Windows on this thing.
Yeah. And again, the ecosystem is going to be a problem, but you can rent movies on any device, obviously. So if you're going to take a trip or whatever, something like this, you throw in your bag, you don't really notice it. You can rent a couple movies on there, put some books on there, whatever it is. I mean, you can do that with any device. And so some people prefer to be in the Windows ecosystem. Some people are going to be running Windows on their laptop, and they get this new Metro thing going. And maybe just having that consistent UI across devices is going to be beneficial and so forth. It's a good one, but again, it's the Windows stuff is tough because they're so far behind.
I also think there's an identity crisis too.
Yeah,
I mean, it's difficult to.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've said it before. I mean, RT has desktop, but you can't run desktop applications on there.
RT only has desktop because it has to.
It has to, yeah. But the consumer doesn't know that. The consumer has no idea.
It's like Chromebook. You see the desktop, and you think, "Oh, it's Windows."
Let me go to Skype.com.
Go get Chrome. no, it doesn't work like that.
Oh boy,
It doesn't work like that.
going to be interesting. So, Paul, we're winding down the show, but we have a lot of stuff coming up in the next couple of months because we do we have a couple of special shows that we do every year.
Okay.
I don't know. We did the Black Friday stuff last year, the Black Friday deals.
Okay.
I'm going to see.
Familiar.
Yeah, I think we'll do that.
The
we're going
best
to do
and worst of the year.
the
right?
best and worst of, which people love.
I'll be sure to put the ChromeOS in the appropriate slot.
But you know what?
for
What's
that
funny?
show.
I don't have too many worst ofs this year.
Yeah.
Like there was no fail. I guess BlackBerry.
okay.
Obviously,
So,
but-
it depends on what your definition of worst is, right? So, for example, there are definitely products that failed in the marketplace horribly, like BlackBerry 10. But is that the point of worst, right? In other words, this is like a personal worst because I feel like BlackBerry 10 wasn't all that horrible. It was just bad timing, and the market is what it is. I don't think it was their fault. It was just too little, too late. But I don't feel like antagonistic toward BlackBerry or anything. I just it just didn't take off. I mean, maybe those guys make the list, maybe they don't. But
I don't know. Yeah,
like stuff like that.
It's going to be difficult this year because every year we've had like a company that's like fallen apart. Like when we did Palm, and then we did HP. I think one year was on our worst stuff because
Well, we could look at stuff like HTC or Acer.
Yeah. Or we could do
BlackBerry would have to be on-
fails. How about
BlackBerry-
this?
BlackBerry would have to be on the list.
We do best of the year, and then we do the fails of the year.
Okay.
Because it might be that might be a little bit easier to.
Hero or goat.
Yeah. I don't know. So we're going to do that. And then we do our prediction show for the year for 2014. And what we should
Did we do one for this year?
We did, and I have it saved.
We have to go back and look at that.
Yeah. So we'll do like a comparison between, what we thought. Actually, I wonder.
Because I'm terrible at this. This should be good for some comedy.
Oh God, me too. Listen, both of us were the ones that said the iPad is going to fail.
Yeah. There's no way that I still don't think it's going to take
2013 predictions. Let's see if I
wrote them down.
I think we did a 1-8-13. Yeah, I have it right here. Predictions for 2013.
What do you got?
Let's see. I may let me find one. I'm thinking, should we do it right now? Should we go down the list now?
Maybe we should hold off on this.
Yeah. I'll see
hold off on
one
this for the actual show.
I'm
I'm curious. Send me this though. I want to see this list.
Well, you should have it shared.
Yeah, but how? Okay. I don't actually know how to use.
Let me see if I could do this.
Share
You
it.
have made a change. Okay.
Okay.
Save.
Right. I'm sorry. Actually, excuse me. It was extremely easy to find. What is the date?
1-8. I'm sharing it again with you.
Well, okay.
There we go. 1-8-13. So
Yeah.
expect cheap touching, and a lot of it.
That must be yours.
No, I don't think so. I think that's you. I'm not.
There's no way I wrote cheap touching.
Expect expect to be able to leave your charger at home.
What is this? These aren't predictions.
I don't think. Did we do this?
No, this is not. These are not the predictions. These are stories.
Maybe this is not ours.
This is no. We didn't come up with this. This is.
You
from
don't think so?
someone else.
Where did I get this from? That's interesting.
That's no.
Yeah. Expect to finally have a decent password. No, this is not us. Less mousing. No, we definitely didn't write that. All right, so you know what? I got to go back to our show notes and find them there. Because we did Microsoft, Apple, Google. The three things that we wrote there. And then, as you can see, it says, no one that I know got a iPod Touch, Andrew. This is when I had my weird fetish with the iPod Touch pricing. Drove me to insanity. So, you know what we'll do? I'll come up with a list. I'll listen back, and then we'll do a comparison of the things that actually happened and the things, obviously, that did not. Because I'm sure there's more that didn't happen than did. Why is this even in the notes?
It seems like we take a lot of time off around Christmas, is what it looks like.
Why did we?
Yeah, I did find our best of 2012 list.
Interesting. Anything good?
Yeah, well, okay. I mean, one of the things I have on mine is 7-inch tablets, Nexus 7, Kindle Fire, and iPad Mini, which I note is a rare I told you so. Like, I always felt like that mini tablet was the right form factor. When the
Yeah.
iPad came out, I was like, this is interesting, but man, it would be so much better if it was smaller. Of course, that was around the time when Steve Jobs was like, oh, these things, small tablets suck.
Yeah, so what we'll do, I'll go down the list and I'll do a comparison of everything that we spoke about last year, comparing it to this year, and I'll have the schedule, I guess, posted on our website because I don't know the dates that everything falls on this year, so we'll figure it out there. So we have the best of, we have the worst of, we have our prediction show, and I think that's it. And then we have a couple other shows. We talk about Christmas, what we got for Christmas. We do that.
Yeah.
It becomes very materialistic at the end of the year. All we're doing is talking about...
I got Bose in-ear noise canceling headset for my birthday. This is a great tech present. I wore these out. I've been wearing these while I walk, and I've been wearing Bose headsets, the big ones, the big can ones on planes for years. And it was a windy day the first day I walked around with this. I was walking around, and I was like, I don't really feel like this added anything to the experience. Like maybe I shouldn't bother wearing these when I walk. And then I turned it off, and all of a sudden it was like being in a wind tunnel. Like it was like, and there was like leaves blowing everywhere, and it was crazy. I didn't hear any of it, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, actually, that's kind of interesting.
I can't do in-ears. They drive me nuts.
Well, but that's why these are awesome, because I hate in-ear headphones. And so actually, let me show you.
Hold on. Yeah, let me see.
They have this little like a plastic piece.
Oh, cool.
And so you kind of turn it into your ear, and so it's that little. It's not really hard, but that semi-hard bit that's what holds it there. And the problem I always have with the in-ear ones is that one will fall out, or what. I'm constantly kind of screwing them in because they don't stay in my ears. And these things have this little piece that works with the curve of your ear to hold them there.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, they're really nice. And unlike other Bose noise canceling headsets, they work if the battery's dead. They still work as normal headsets.
Oh, they do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
Which is also huge. Yeah.
Very cool. So we have a lot going on next year, end of the year and into next year. We do have a lot
Already
going on.
looking ahead.
I'm telling you, 2014 is here. I can't even believe it. It's like we're in the future, Paul. We're in the future. Go to our website, gfknetwork.com. If you miss any portion of the show, you could check out our show archived on our website. Subscribe to us, guys. It helps us out. You can follow me on Twitter, at Andrew Zarian. You can follow Paul at The Rot. What else am I missing? Oh, winsupersite.com. All things Paul Thurrott. You could go there, check out his really good articles, especially the one that people got very upset at, and that's the Chromebook article.
Yeah, no idea.
People lost their minds over this thing.
Just off a very tiny minority of people. But
yeah, the less than 1% that uses this device.
Is it really shocking to these people that I just don't understand the kind of indignation over this topic?
I want to get one, and I want to put TeamViewer on it, and I want to remote in to my work computer so I could get some work done. That's what I'm going to start doing with work. Yeah.
But why? Yeah. I mean, again, just use a computer. I don't understand. It's not that much of a sin.
Also, guys, if you want to help us out, you want to support the GFQ Network, you could use our Amazon affiliate link by going to gfq.co/Amazon. That's gfq.co/Amazon. We got a tiny little credit, and it helps us buy little things like in-ear monitors and pencils and pens and microphones and wires. Maybe I could buy a Windows phone if I build up enough Amazon credit. And that's it, guys. We'll see you all next week. Good night, everybody.